Good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome to the Hayseed Night.
You're never going to guess.
Don't get cute with me now! I almost got myself killed because of you! You said you'd be waiting for me all day. Why weren't you?
Why? Now that's a great question. I don't even know where to start. Elbar gets pokered in the head, the Desert Rose goes kaboom during an eclipse, and then 200 bar hands leave their jobs to congregate around an ibex priestess and her row translator in the abandoned temple of a missing god. Kick a hornet's nest and ask me why I'm running around. Oh, Ada, you've always had a knack for making my job hard.
That wasn't my... I never meant for any of this to happen. I just wanted to...
Oh, no, kid. Don't get me wrong. I'm not mad at you. Quite the opposite. I'm honestly kind of impressed. I wouldn't have taken you for the revolutionary kind. Some people spend their whole lives trying to earn their way into what you've stumbled into, you know? You're just oozing with star quality, my boy. Like a natural disaster.
Illigrab, no, I ain't got nothing to do with this, I swear. And even if I did, there's more important stuff going on. The beasts.
Ah, yes. The beasts. The beasts certainly would be an impediment to the guard coming in to nip a riot in the bud.
You don't believe me?
Illigrab exhaled slowly, ruffling every needle under his nose. He combed his mustache with his fingers pensively.
Come on, Ada. You have to admit it's all a little too convenient. Far-fetched, even for you. What would you have me do if I were to believe you?
I don't know, something, anything. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I can't handle this alone.
Alone? Ada, look around you. You've drawn yourselves a crowd. A fervent mass of devout followers heeding the every word of a naive young ibex that was sweeping the floor just yesterday, and a row who can't even get hanged right. Carnivores should be the last thing on your mind right now.
Adder hung his head. He'd never heard that word before, and he didn't need to. He immediately knew what Illigrab was implying. Even though he'd never been so naive as to think the tree man would believe him, Adder's reality was still turned all the bleaker in just a few words. Illigrab sidled towards him, shuffling his feet as he did anytime he felt like being inconspicuous.
I don't know what's keeping you here, but I know for a fact you wouldn't be dawdling around if you could help it. I don't have to tell you, right? Nothing good ever comes from being in the spotlight.
Make one mistake. Take a step in the wrong direction, and everything goes up in flames.
As Sepp would put it, yes. One could say that's a rather positive outlook. You know what smart people do, my boy? They always keep a bucket of water at hand.
And you are my bucket of water?
No, kiddo. I'd never run out of fires to put out. I'm on cleaning duty after the show. Your bucket of water, well, I suppose you are the only one who can decide what that looks like.
Adder couldn't bear to even speak of the actual fires he had to mind. He wouldn't say such a thing out loud. It'd be just yet another problem for Illigrab to make light of. Always one to pick up the mood. Though not always keen on respecting it, the tree man put his helmet on and made to leave. Still, Adder spoke one last time.
Is this how it's gonna be every time? You're just gonna keep on running away with your tail between your legs whenever I need you and then act like we're still friends?
Bleak night approached, one gust at a time. Illigrab's leaves soughed in the wind? Huh. Never heard that word before. Is that like the same as rustled?
Someday, You'll understand.
With that, he disappeared into the night, changing exactly nothing at all. Silence again, but this time the deer could pick the soft creaking of the flame in the fire pit over the hurricane of his own thoughts. When at last they were alone, Adder sat down next to the fire.
Hey, Sip. You heard all that?
The flames flickered in response.
I don't know if I'll ever understand, but I don't get a single thing right now. I think I'm just stalling at this point, because what if I said, let's do this, but then you wake up and I messed everything up and you get mad at me? Oh, gods, what am I saying? We're not talking about you, Adderson. What I'm trying to say is, I want you to be happy. No matter what. If I can't make sure that's going to be the case, I shouldn't be the one making decisions for you.
Aww. Applauses and whoops in the distance interrupted this moment of reflection. Adder perked his head up slightly, trying to see if he could catch a glance of whatever was happening in the crowd.
There's a whole party going on out there, you know. I think it's supposed to be a strike, but it's more like a festival in your honor. I'm not sure if you're into that sort of thing, but maybe you would have liked it if we went together. Could have been fun. Tell you a secret? I know it's hard to believe now, but Adderson Hardestag, son of your fought, was never much of a crowd's buck either. Especially taverns. All the music and noise pound my head like nothing else. But it was the one place where folks were drunk enough to be nice to me. Maybe I'd even make a friend or two if they felt like pouring their hearts out. I don't drink to feel good, but I'd drink ooze if it made others feel good about me.
Aww. The fire continued burning. That was enough.
You've always been great at listening, you know. I'm seeing that now. Nobody else in the city would let me get a word in, but you always cared so much about everything I said. I wonder if I ever let you speak like that. And speaking of not speaking, if Eka ain't messing with me, Aina should be back soon. I don't know how soon is soon, but I'm really looking forward to seeing her again. It's not even been 2 days, and I'd do anything to have y'all back. Soon can't be soon enough. I need you. Both of you. I'm half the man I am when you're not around. Hang in there, love.
No reply. There never would be one, no matter what he said. Adder knew this, deep down. But knowing was not enough to stop him. He couldn't resign to his fate, or either of them. He needed something, anything. He needed to know that she was still there. Just as this thought started to threaten to turn into a whole new spiral, one of the coals snapped and crackled, sending her bells on a short roll away from the fire. They bumped against each other and the bricks on their sudden getaway, but not a sound came out of them. Adder felt like a fool at the thought that followed. He did. But he still lifted a hand and reached into the forge, careful not to disturb the fire.
No, no.
The sun rose yet another day, and with it, her caretaker. Adder stretched his back very slowly, trying to soothe both the soreness from his many wounds and the terrible backache inherent to sleeping on a pile of charcoal. The fire looked good, the morning was bright, and the beast almost always left with the dark in his mind. Adder grabbed his newly decorated cane and his best shirt, kindly rescued from Geoff's home as a belated peace offering, and set out to patrol the first floor. Zhao wasn't sleeping in the kitchen like the night before, and only the gods knew where and when Geoff may have found a bed. It probably wouldn't be long until the priestess made her way up, knowing her. Might as well get some breakfast started, and tidy up a little, and dust some cobwebs, and... Otter turned his head when he caught the faintest echo of a tiny pair of hooves climbing up the stairs leading to the forge at midday. He called out from the kitchen, waving a spatula at the goat.
My, oh my, if it ain't the soul of the party herself. How you doing, Jow? Any real big ladies keep you on the tip of your holiness last night?
No, yes, but no. I was too overwhelmed trying to keep up for any of that. I got dragged into a group that kept using difficult words and talking about complex things, and I didn't really know how to excuse myself politely, so I waited for you, but you never came back.
That's what I sent you for.
Your friend played a couple of incredibly bawdy songs and then scurried off to who knows where with a man on each arm.
Right. Yeah, I ought to seen that one coming.
No, he didn't come. He left. I need you with me to handle these matters, Ada. My Sirna's not nearly at the level to speak about local taxation and power decentralization.
That makes two of us. Besides, I'm doing what I'm meant to do, priestess. Minding the fire till the forge master returns. I'm sure you can fend for yourself just fine. You're just worrying too much.
Zhao leaned back next to Adder, grabbing a cup of the tea he'd prepared for the group. It had long turned dark and bitter from overboiling.
Ada, I understand that your duty to the Jasif always comes first. Your level of devotion is truly commendable.
She put a hand on his arm and smiled.
But what about your duty to your friends? Your friends who really need you to translate day-to-day conversations for them so they don't accidentally say dirty words in front of 300 people?
Oh, perhaps I could be of assistance. I don't mean to give myself airs, but I have several years of experience presenting my self-edited thesis among scholars. A crowd with such limited amount of higher education should pose no challenge.
Zhao took a long, polite sip of her cup.
What is he doing here?
Adder opened his mouth, but Burbis immediately extended his arm in front of him.
Please, friend. This is a battle I must face alone. Allow me to express myself. I know that I am prone to speaking out of turn, and I realize that I have committed many a mistake in my life. But I am firmly determined to make up for all of them. I must apologize for upsetting you, good miss. Dialectal variations are perfectly valid from a communicative point of view. Acta Mursirian Besaktet has as much right to exist as its classic Besaksaran counterpart. You have to admit, however, it's obvious that when it comes to written text, that codification provided by the classic standards make legibility much easier and...
He wants to stop being a pest, and I figured making mistakes somewhere I can keep an eye on him is the way to go.
I trust you well enough as a judge of character, Ada, but he is not going to be making mistakes near the congregation anytime soon.
No worries. I don't plan on letting him get himself killed. So, you were saying something about big words?
Right! Everyone was talking to me at once and I couldn't understand a word anymore. I think I managed to set up some appointments for the afternoon if you, wouldn't mind stalling their words a little so I have time to process them.
Yeah, you got it, priestess. I'll make up for last night.
Oh, on that tangent, have you given any thought to the matter we discussed?
Yeah, no. Geoff's gonna be out of the picture for a while, so I reckon you're gonna have to handle this one on your own, Zhao.
Burbis briefly recapitulated the same explanation he'd given Adder the previous night, in Besaktet this time. Zhao took a hand to her face, processing the offer in silence.
I'm not an alchemist like you, and I don't know the last thing about Sephiet. Given our history, I'm positive that the academies in Akathor didn't save more than the texts that benefited them. I have spent my entire life learning about matters of the spirit, and from what little I understand of the anatomy of the soul, I believe that if you went ahead with this, in her current state, you would merely be building a column.
Well, yes, that's the idea.
Excuse me?
Baby!
What? It's just a temporary measure. A little test run, if you will, until we learn of a better way.
I will not allow you to use the Jasif for your experiments!
Then you will have her die of exposure.
You're overlooking all the ethical implications of doing such a thing. Imagine you woke up one day inside a lifeless marble body. What would you think?
I would be overjoyed.
Zhao glared at Berbiz for way longer than she needed to. Then she turned to the next deer.
Ada, you knew her well. What would the Jasif think?
She'd hate it. She honestly would. She'd rather just, cease existing than become a golem.
Oh boy, I'm sure she'd have all sorts of stuff to say about it. Leaving aside what she'd think of having Bearbeth anywhere near her, Sep was always, real proud about her standing, if you know what I mean.
So we could work on conserving her original mass. That's not an issue.
Hey, I wasn't talking about that specifically.
I will not allow you to turn her into a moving machine. That's final.
Yeah, I'm with Zhao on this.
And who named you head of the ethics committee?
Adder turned his one eye towards Berbiz, and then towards his open palm.
Understandable. I shall find a way to protect her while we waste time searching for an alternative solution.
That's better.
Hello? Miss Priestess? Are you available yet? Huh? What are they doing here? I said to meet me in the afternoon.
It is indeed past midday.
But it's not even lunchtime yet.
Oh, good! So it's not just a chattering thing then!
We need to get dressed. Come on, Ada.
Adder started running, but quickly changed his mind.
If I leave you alone with the fire, am I gonna return to something weird?
Just keep him in the sunlight.
Oh, what an expressive adage. I suppose it means you should keep an eye on me.
I'd keep both if I had them.
There she is!
The newly dolled up goat and deer rushed to open the gates and lead a select group into the temple, leaving Berbiz behind in the cloister just to make extra sure he wouldn't get up to any experimental antics. The patio was filled to the brim with gazelles, waiting for their turn.
Ciao, bud! How many folks did you schedule at the same time?
Zhao and Adder stepped up to the altar in front of the statue.
I believe that couple over there were the first to ask.
Adder relayed the message, and so they stepped forward.
Yeah, so yesterday's stunt was really nice and all, but you still didn't answer our questions.
Not that we doubt your wisdom, Priestess. Getting to know each other was a really poignant moment, and I'm sure you must be busy talking to the Yasif and all. We're just wondering if you,
Do you have enough food to feed us for as long as the strike lasts? Or do you expect us to raid our pantries every day? Because I was promised fruit.
I told you it was a metaphor!
Adder and Zhao excused themselves to the colonnade. After making sure that nothing had gotten lost in translation, they both started quietly reflecting on the problem.
I don't understand this strike thing, but is it customary to feed disciples in the temples of Heirloom?
They hand out a fig leaf and a garlic clove and amais on the first day, but it's more trouble than it's worth.
This is a historical need, in a historic moment, however. Is it not the duty of religious structures to feed the people when the local administration fails them?
That's regrettably a good point. We must avail for the well-being of our disciples, especially if the famine in the city is as terrible as I've heard. Let's share our pantry with them.
Say what? If we feed everyone here, we'll run out of food for ourselves in no time.
We can always get more. Our goodwill shall be repaid to us in time.
You sure fell right off the turnip cart, priestess.
Adder took a hand to his face, lamenting the loss of his own innocence, not to mention his old protective layer of fat.
You need not suffer needlessly, my friends. I will be happy to surrender all my assets to the cause.
Oh, problem solved.
How many assets are those?
The entirety of the pantry in my lodging and the few durandon I brought with me. We would have infinitely more resources if I had access to the Askadeth household, but I believe this should help us last a couple of days.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, I suppose we can always figure out other ways to get food as we go.
Zhao and Adder walked back to the congregation. A young man was about to speak up when a sable rider rammed the gates open and stormed onto the patio, cutting a path for himself on the back of a pallo. Awed mutters and exclamations of sacrilege and disrespect accompanied him as he dismounted his ride, but he paid them no mind.
Priestess, Etor the Rebuke addresses you. I was born under a different name, to miners ruined and captured in Vought, where the imperial law may as well have been written on leaves. My parents were worked to death, and I paid their debt in blood.
Oh, it was odd matters. Okay.
This is the loyal Aram. Many travelers have died a painful death, stomped under her roots, and all the burden she's known was stolen. And yet, when I heard your divine message, Aram knew to ride here as fast as she could. I do not seek forgiveness, nor am I looking to change my ways. All I ask is that you allow me to unsheath my sword for you from now on. My armed band and I will proudly provide for those who fight for a future free of pain for all Baran kind.
Okay.
What a hefty load of crap! Amu yes Monty, Amu for my friends. Friends that died on the road at the hands of people like Eddie here. So trust me when I say, food shouldn't come at the cost of grieving widows. Don't get the name of this reputable cause mixed up with the likes of him. Whatever it is you need, I have the connections necessary to procure it. At a fair price, of course.
Merchants! You would dare pull your siblings into your racket?
I would never. Fair is fair, however, and I don't expect our dear countrymen would lend a hand to our cause out of the goodness of their hearts.
Their hearts will be opened to us, or they will be opened by us.
Gorgeous words. They'll look great on our death record after you get us all hanged.
Now, why don't we all take a deep breath and...
Silence! I'll have the tongue of whoever dares interrupt me again!
Etor drew his sword, filling the patio with screams and a sudden avalanche of people trying to get out. Before the chaos could grow into a calamity, a shadow leapt onto the floor from the roof and crossed the crowd, quick as the wind. Is it Aina? Etor looked at his hand. He no longer had a sword.
What?
It's Aina! Ooh. In the center of the offertory, there stood a white-haired smith, bending a sword into the shape of a ladle with her bare hands.
Aina!
What in the name of the three is that thing?
Fool! Look what you've done! You've angered the priestess's guardian golem!
No, that ain't it. She ain't no golem.
Each and every single one of Aina's steps left a crater on the flagstones beneath as she lunged towards the raider and lifted him off the ground.
Priestess, please! I didn't mean to offend. Stop the golem!
She ain't no...
Basidupse, please, stop this.
Adder felt all the air escape out of his lungs when he finally opened his eye. Ja was standing in front of him, armed and ready to throw herself against the creature, but trembling all the while.
I don't know why you came or what you're looking for, but I will not allow you to hurt these people. If it's a fight you're looking for, fight me. I beg you.
Aina stared at Zhao for the longest time, unmoving, unresponsive. Adder knew what he had to do, but it still hurt.
Aina! Drop it.
Aina immediately opened her hand, letting the bandit fall to the ground like a dead weight. She quietly returned to Adder's side, ignoring the spear pointed at her. There she simply turned to stand behind Adder's back. Zhao turned her eyes up towards Adder, frightened and confused. "She's with me," he whispered under his breath, hoping Zhao would catch it. Then he turned his attention to the sparse crowd that still remained on the patio.
Everything's under control. We can...
A short tug on his sleeve. He looked down to find Zhao still trembling.
No, sorry. The priestess has asked me to inform y'all that we are all out of time and she needs to return to tending to the Asif. We got enough taters to feed all y'all for a couple of days. We'll figure out the rest as we go.
Complaints and musings, and the rare "thank you" followed.
I'll be round and available to anyone that got more questions to pass on to her. If anyone gives you crap, just holler and me and my friend Aina will drop right by. No shanks or swords, or she'll be the one y'all be talking to.
With that, the impromptu open hours meeting was adjourned. No one dared utter another word as they walked out. Adder offered his hand for Zhao to hold on to, but she just shook her head and walked to the back on her own strength, clinging to her spear. Once the gates were locked, Adder finally had time to turn his attention to the returning newcomer.
Boss, I'm so happy to see you! I couldn't believe it when I heard you'd be back.
Aina looked up at Adder vacantly. Zhao couldn't help flinching at the sight.
Your boss is,
Golem? No, course not. They got that wrong. This is my boss, Aina, the prettiest smith in the city. Also known as the short sister of the tall lady you like so much. Come on, wave high or something, won't you?
Aina shook her hand left and right mechanically, all the while wearing an empty expression. It was the straight opposite of the face Burbis made when he saw her.
Gods above! Is that a golem with female features? This could be the solution to all our problems!
Burbit, come on! Not you two! We've been over this. This is Aina. Remember? The whole reason why I punched you in the face when we met?
Now it was Burbis's time to stare.
'Cause you cut up her clothes trying to prove she was a golem?
Nope, nothing.
You got a note that said she'd let you explore or whatever in exchange for saving me.
Oh, don't be silly. Even the most advanced scribe golems could only write down dictation. A golem with free will. I'll gladly take up your offer to examine her, though.
I don't care what she is. I'll get him if you don't.
Adder put his hands over his face and dragged his snout down.
I can't deal with this right now. I'm gonna tell Pertuck she's back. Just keep an eye on her, okay? She's her own person, but don't let her get in trouble.
Zhao looked at the menacing girl in front of her, then back at Adder. She nodded unsurely. The stairs that led to the Master's Tower in the Great Temple of Hirub were encapsulated in as narrow a tunnel as possible so as to discourage visitors. In yesteryears, the Master of the Temple would retreat to the tower to consider philosophical and religious matters, away from the library and the noise of the common halls. Adder navigated the oppressive staircase in the dark, passing a hand through the slightly moist rock that made up the walls. He'd never climbed the stairs to the studio tower of the Temple of Hirub, not even to sweep the dust. Much like the disciples of yore, Adder knew what would be coming to him if he bothered the Master during his philosophical retreat. His daily nap, as it were. Still, he had no choice but to knock on the door. No response. He knocked again.
Mr. Pertuck, sir! Good news! Aina's back! Just thought you'd like to know.
No, she's not.
What do you mean she's not? She's downstairs.
The moon is not watching, and the sun is far too low. My daughter is too scared of the dark to come out.
Okay. But she's downstairs if you want to talk to her.
I'm trying to rest. Go pester someone else.
Sure thing, sir. So sorry to bother you with awful good news. My bad for trying to do anything for my old patron.
Son of Gerthad, keep her away from the fire, or you'll have 2 corpses to mourn instead of 1.
Adder kept his back turned against the door for a moment. Against his better judgment and the basics of common sense, he marched at last into the merchant's room. Inside, he found a room full of maps, charts, and all sorts of mathematical and nautical instruments Adder would never fully understand. A little sky door illuminated the ceiling, and all the windows were shut except for one. Seeking the last few remnants of warm sunlight before bleak night, unafraid Matt, a weak, decrepit old man, sat poorly tucked into a rocking chair. Adder's chest billowed with a sigh.
Sir, I know you don't give half a damn about me, and that's a good thing right now, because I'm 2 hairs short of going bald, and I need to tell it to someone straight. I'm real darn tired of everyone speaking riddles around me. What can I help with? What do you need? Say the word and I'll go and get it done.
You? Humbug. You're messing with forces you don't understand. Tottering about like a newborn fawn. Powerless.
I'm not. I've gotten so much done in just a few days. I'm cleaning up my act, doing things for my friends. I'm trying to be better.
So you're powerless with a smile. Burn as bright as you want now. That flame isn't bound to last long. Youth truly is wasted on the young.
Please, please, give me something to work with here.
I'll give you something, all right. A new bump on that hollow turnip you call a skull. You want orders? Take your crap and leave my temple immediately, like I said! Go get lost in the steppes where they will never find you!
Pertuck's maddened screams were cut short by a strong coughing fit. His entire body seemed to sink into his chair, turned 100 years older yet.
If I could afford to be as foolish as you, I would run. Run where guilt could never find me.
Aww.
Yeah, well, I ain't like you.
No, you're powerless.
Well, you don't seem to be all that powerful at the moment either.
Why am I even talking to you? You're just some bitter know-all geezer who spends his days screaming at anyone that'll listen and saying terrible things about his daughter because she can't argue back. I don't need your opinion.
Yeah. Tell it like it is, Adder.
On that, we agree.
Adder left the tower in a huff.
Did he?
No, I don't know what the question is, but no. Where's Aina?
She, wandered off somewhere, despite my insistence that she stay.
Yeah, she'll do that. Don't let Bearbeth follow her around, though, or I'll...
Adder swung his staff in the air. It got stuck on the rafters. A string of extremely colorful curses followed.
Ada? How are you feeling today?
Adder stopped swearing at last. He turned his face away from the staff for a moment.
I'm fine. Why?
Zhao lowered her head. She scanned the floor, looking for conversation starters.
I thought you may be hungry?
Adder halted again. He took a hand to his bruised, caved-in stomach.
Huh. I guess I ought to be, yeah.
Zhao nodded her head towards their own private pile of uncooked tubers. Adder meant to make up an excuse, but he couldn't refuse Zhao's considerate insistence. Once the potato was in his hand, he examined its weight. A large, hefty tuber, a healthy spud, if you will. Without another word, he turned and hurled the potato at the crook of his staff, finally killing it off the beam and onto the ground. Adder grabbed his crutch and lifted it in the air for Zhao to see.
Woo! That's what I call a sharp eye! Did you see that?
Toss a potato again. I dare you.
Adder never used food as a projectile again for the remainder of his life. Though he had spent a long time in the Temple of Herob, our protagonist's little foray into the tower showed him just how little he knew about the place. While he wasn't allowed to wander in principle, Adder had still had time to find his own favorite places, spots that provided him with some semblance of calm when Aina got on his nerves or the forge became a bit too much. He walked towards a shaded corner in the street behind the library with a nice, warm, somewhat battered ash-baked potato on his hands.
Translator, come this way.
Like a clerk being bothered during lunch break, Adder turned reluctantly towards the voice calling out to him. He immediately recognized it as Etor's, the rider who had stirred trouble in the offertory. But what was he going to do? Say no to the bandit? Adder dragged his feet towards the buttress Etor was leaning against. The sable buck took a thoughtful hand to his neck mane before speaking.
Apologize to the priestess on my behalf. I did not mean to cause such a scene. Strength is the way to impose order where law falters, and I misjudged my own position towards her. She is brave and did not hesitate to fight where I cowered. She has my respect for it.
Etor's eyes then slid rightwards of Adder. The boy followed his line of sight, confused, only to startle and nearly slam the potato against Aina's face.
It's clear to me now that the creature is bound to you, not her. It's good that she has people with such skills around her. You have great power at your disposal.
I ain't got nothing at my disposal. Aina ain't here to fight. She's here to help us.
That makes no difference to me. I only wanted you to know that I will not apologize to you, but I will not draw a weapon against you or anyone here again. Not without good reason.
Much obliged.
Tell the priestess that if she will have me, my offer remains the same. I will bring whatever her followers need. I will slay whoever she needs slain. And if she renounces my help, I will ride, never to be seen again. For now, I see that our people have nowhere to rest. I will have my trees of burden bring in our accommodations to share as a sign of goodwill. Tell the priestess that Itor the Rebuke did this because he wished to.
Adder nodded and then started walking back towards the library entrance, now in the company of Aina.
Tell the priestess that Itor the Rebuke did this because me. Can you believe that guy?
A potato-stuffed snout turned immediately to find a man sidling towards Adder. He would have recognized a merchant like this one a mile away. Mu was the sort of man that walked like he'd seen the entire world twice or thrice, and he'd probably see it a fourth too. He was the kind that came to this village every few moons, carrying tales bigger than life and little trinkets for the children. Of course he came down from Chanjuray. Adder allowed himself a morsel of fast talking, a tall tale-telling national pride somewhere in his battered old heart.
How are you doing after all that, translator? Sorry to call you translator, by the way. I call you by your name, but I just realized I don't even know what you're called.
Oh, it's Adderson if you're mad, and Adder for everything else.
Otterson. Why, that name barely sounds out of place here. No, I'm just pulling your leg. It's a pleasure, Otter. Thank you for your work. Baitat knows we would all be turning rocks looking for a Basektet speaker without you.
We could have gotten your mother right.
Why, I've never had my mother brought up so nicely. Tell you what, though, if she wasn't already an Ern, she would have been smitten dead on the spot at the mention of a Jasif.
Mu took a cup to his snout, in a sort of impromptu toast to the departed.
Drat, 5 minutes talking to a raider and now I got the manners of one, eh? Otter, my boy, would you care for some tea?
I'm good, thank you.
More for me, then. And you know what? I'm going to need it. Sheesh, didn't think I'd make it out alive today. Bandits, sure, I've seen heaps of them. Blades are blades, and blades you can buy. But golems, whew, you don't see those every day.
Ain't no.
Yeah, you can say that again. Hey, tell the priestess that if she ever tires of it, she already knows someone who'll take it right off her hands. Her buddy Moo could use an extra arm or two to stick it up to the treasurer. Ha
Moo patted Adder on the back, cackling loudly until, eventually, the laughter dried out into a knowing chuckle.
Look, just between you and me, I'm not all that sold on this whole whatever this is. I'm a Boron since the day I was born, of course. And I want to make sure everyone has a better life and whatnot. But if we don't watch who we mingle with, the whole offertory bit is going to become our daily routine, right? And the neighbors will complain. Oh, these gazelles are being noisy. They're a problem, just like we thought. We give the guards one tiny little excuse to show up on our doorstep. And you know where this whole thing is headed?
Down the sewers.
Moo tapped on his snout.
You tell the priestess that for me, yeah? To keep it civil and respectable. I'm willing to put a few coins and wares towards the cause, as long as it's safe for everyone.
Adder nodded in the manner of people who absolutely have no way of making any wise commitment tend to do. Deep down, this sounded wrong. He could hardly imagine a civil and respectable fight for anything, much less whatever this was. Set on this tangent, his mind wandered far from the conversation. Would he have to find ways to rely on secret messages from now on? It sounded like the kind of wink-wink nudge whisper that absolutely did not account for having middlemen. Or maybe it did. Maybe a fall guy was just what Moo and Itor wanted. With a flimsy, mumbled excuse, Adder plodded off to find himself a priestess, closely followed by Aina. No matter how much Zhao insisted she needed him to get through a conversation, he was convinced he needed her doubly so. He didn't belong here. Adder's escape plan was cut short by a couple of gazelles standing conspicuously on the way to the entrance.
Y'all got a message for the priestess too?
Yeah, tell the potatoes were kind of stale.
Nuf whacked Keubsop on the back of the head.
We just wanted to tell you personally that we're very sorry for what happened yesterday.
Oh, you mean the whole... No, you were right too, I'm sure. I mean, I am a horn eater after all. That's no skin off my back these days.
No, we don't mind what you... It was our fault for assuming you were trying to pull something on us.
No, it's all right. It's my bad for not explaining myself properly.
No, it's...
Gods! How long are you gonna keep this up? You're both sorry. I still think this is a scam. Let's move on and leave the Etude alone already.
Keubsop! I'm so sorry about him. He's had some issues with...
Dear?
People, in general. Please don't tell your friend to smite him. He's a lot, but he's all right.
I got a friend just like that. He'd be a massive bigot if he weren't so short. And I don't know if they'd be best friends or mortal enemies.
Yeah?
Adder and Hnuf stared at each other awkwardly. The stag barely held back the need to slap himself in the face for having said such a hideous thing just to keep the conversation going.
I think I'm just gonna go now.
Adder sighed into his hands.
Hey, y'all seen Goff anywhere around?
Though he couldn't quite explain the scene he was witnessing in the library, Adder was pretty sure he'd just stumbled upon a battlefield. Books lay scattered across the floor. Burbies and Zhao were sitting on opposite ends of the room, facing their respective corners.
I'm positive that photoic as an adjective refers to bronze.
And I'm telling you, it means brass.
What would you know? I bet you don't even know what those alloys are composed of.
I don't need to know how to make something to know what it means in my own language.
To call it your own language, when only one of us can read classic Basaktet with any fluency?
I'm gonna go get dinner ready while y'all focus on your stuff.
Thank you, that'd be great.
Cheers, Edda.
The second Adder turned around, the academic insults came back in full force. Okay, well, I think we'll continue from here in the next episode and see whether Zhao and Burbies can manage to start to get along and you know, get some results working together. Hopefully, we'll see. But for now, thank you so much for watching and spending a little of your time with me here today. It was lovely to have you. Please remember to be kind to yourself. Have a lovely rest of your day. And I will see you again next time.